All right, all right, on. President Trump continuing to put America first over the interests of communist China. The move to repatriate our key medical supplies is just one of several actions showing Beijing that America will no longer roll over for them. For the latest on China, we're joined by former Army Lieutenant Colonel James Carafano, Vice President of the Davis Institute for National Security and Foreign Policy at the Heritage Foundation. Also joined by Helen Raleigh, an author and senior contributor over there at the Federalist. Thank you both for being here. Colonel, we'll start with you. Requiring the federal government to buy essential drugs from U.S. companies, the move to get the remade Kodak company to make 25% of our generic drugs in America, and encouraging people to buy American. These are good first steps towards this decoupling away from communist China, yes?
Well, I don't know if every supply chain needs to be decoupled, but I do think that issues that clearly impact our future national security and prosperity ought to be at the top of the list. A lot of people don't realize this, but China has changed their tactics significantly. It used to be like on cyber, it used to be all about economic espionage. And they still do economic espionage, but more of it's done now using human intelligence means. Cyber is maybe the top concern. And the reason for that is they are developing artificial intelligence and quantum computing. And these allow you to process massive amount of data. So major Chinese companies that potentially could have access to all kinds of American information that they could then pipe back to China, store, and use in all kinds of ways, that's a concern. So what really got my attention, and where I think the administration has been incredibly strong, is Huawei, ZTE, having them run our telecom system. That's basically a vacuum cleaner of everything back to Beijing. I think a handful of companies like TikTok, which already has like 14 million users in the United States, having them have a widespread social networking platform that, again, dumps everything back into China, that's a risk. So the administration's picking its shots, and particularly in the cyber area, I think what they're doing is really prudent.
Yeah, Ms. Raleigh, I've got to ask you about this because Mr. Carafano took me right where I wanted to go. I imagine this conversation is taking place between parents and their teenagers. Why is TikTok going away? I love this thing. Tell parents out there what they can tell their teenagers to let them know how bad this social media app is and others being produced by communist China, just how much damage it could do to this country.
Right. So TikTok is especially popular among young people because it allows young people to create short, funny, goofy videos. But like all social media companies, that TikTok collects massive amount of information. And because the parent company of TikTok, basically it's their algorithm is a machine learning algorithm. So the more data they collect, the better their algorithm is going to get. And they're going to use this technology to build like AI, artificial intelligence, and help the Chinese government to build massive surveillance capabilities to their population, as well as surveillance outside of China. And for especially for American teenagers, if they do something that later on when they run for the Senate or when they run for the president, they're going to regret. These are the data the Chinese government can use to come back to blackmail them. Because all technology companies in China are required by the Chinese national security law to hand over their data, their information, whenever asked. No question asked, and no warrant is needed.
Wow, folks, see, China has played what many people call the 100-year game. They play the long game to achieve their goals. Colonel, Treasury Department has levied sanctions on 11 puppets of Beijing that were installed in Hong Kong. You got Alex Azar heading over to Taiwan. What do you think? Where do you think we're sitting right now with our current relations with communist China?
Well, I've always thought that the problem with U.S. strategy towards China for decades was kind of like the old Blazing Saddles movie. There used to be this character called Mongo. He's a big, mean character. And they said, don't shoot Mongo, you might make him mad. And so America consciously tried to avoid confronting China in areas where China was actually impinging on U.S. interests and concerns. And what we've done the last 4 years is essentially flip that strategy on its head. And rather than ignore the areas where China is impinging on legitimate American interests, we are now challenging them specifically on those areas, forcing them to, in a sense, back off. And I think the Hong Kong is a good example. If you look at Hong Kong and barring WeChat, this is a double foul on the part of China. On the one hand, it's a gross human rights violation of a scale that's really unimaginable. But also, it's a violation of China's international commitments. They made commitments to Hong Kong when the British agreed to withdraw. So they violated international norms and they violated international agreements. And if we just stood by and did nothing on that, that would be a green light to China, just do whatever you want. So sanctioning these Hong Kong officials, blocking WeChat, which is widely used by the Chinese government to monitor, control, and surveil citizens of China inside and outside the country. I think these are really, really strong and positive moves that the United States has made.
Helen, really quickly, I've only got about 40 seconds here, but could you tell the folks out there how important it is that we finally have a president willing to stand up to communist China?
Well, like James said, it's long overdue because our past policies has not yielded the result we want, which is to make China a more democratic and people enjoy more rights. So now it's finally we have a government who is willing to bear the risks. Believe me, there are costs and risks to confronting China like this, and we are going to see in the coming days. But it's finally to have a government who's willing to bear such risk and the cost to finally confronting China.
Right. And as a matter of fact, there might be greater risk in not confronting China. Thank you both. Appreciate your time and expertise.